this one is not going to be very long either, but I feel compelled to talk on this subject, what's going on in the media right now in the case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Um, you know, many YouTubers and small creators and little investigators on the internet have been knowing the details of this case for going on 2 years. Since the cornerstone of the pandemic, this was one of my go-to cases to analyze. And what's interesting is that people now in the mainstream media seem so shocked and appalled and can't believe what they're hearing, when we have been knowing this for the past 2 years, all these facts that are coming out of this trial of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation. Now, I know I hear it all the time. You cannot diagnose anyone. Don't say anything bad about anyone. You have to be kind. Okay, I have a little conflict with the kindness movement. Now listen, of course, we are not to go around harming people. We want to teach children how to be kind so that they grow up and have a kindness and empathetic character, right? And we want to be kind to others, but sometimes kindness can blind you to abuse. And when you look at these different relationships, and when I look at my own relationships and I look at my own interactions with people, the people that get harmed the most are the ones who are the kindest sometimes. They're the most easily preyed upon, the most targeted. Because if you're already a jerk, people are not going to try to take advantage of you, unfortunately. That seems to be the way of the world. I mean, they will try and they probably will be successful at times. But for the most part, if you are a kind, empathetic soul, you are at risk of abuse. Now, do I mean go out and be a nasty person? No, of course not. But what we have to do, especially those of us who have never learned about boundaries as a kid and never learned about healthy relationships, when we grow up, we tend to get into situations that are detrimental to us and that are abusive for us. And I see a lot of these traits in Johnny Depp. I don't care what anyone says. I know I have learned my art of detecting narcissism very well. I'm not to say I'm a perfectionist or I'm perfect at it, but I can spot a narcissist sometimes 20 feet across a room without even speaking to them. And it's because I've learned so much about the condition, and I've lived the condition, and I lived it for many years not knowing what it was. And once I became aware and identified it, I could then see it in the traits and see the behaviors in other people. So I definitely have no doubt in my mind that Amber Heard is a narcissist. And perhaps things being as public as they are can be considered a teachable moment for other people who are unaware of narcissism or who were like me for many years. It just didn't click. So maybe when we are confronted and seeing it in, like, for example, in a public court case, and we see these types of traits and behaviors, we can recognize them then in people that we are dealing with on a daily basis. I'm not going to go over any details of the case here. I'm going to put some links of some people who I think do an excellent job of recapping this information and who are highly skilled at getting at the details of the case. I just am just doing this video to assert the narrative that people can appear so innocent, so sweet and charming, but on the flip side, they are nasty, nasty, horrible people. And there are people that really, even after being confronted with the evidence we hear of Miss Heard literally abusing Johnny Depp, we heard then in the trial, we heard the therapist say, well, there was mutual abuse. That happens when you are dealing with an abusive person. Oftentimes your reactions and your psychological, after being psychologically battered, you do things that are not of your character because you are hanging with a narcissist. You are trying to survive around a narcissist. And sometimes you pick up the traits and the reactions of that person, especially if you love that person. And we hear over and over and over that Johnny Depp loved this lady. His heart was in it. He was committed. He literally loved her, or what he thought was love. I don't believe, unfortunately, that he understands the concept of love, because we are learning as well that he had his own abusive pattern in his childhood that probably set him up to be in this situation. Let's face it. But when you care about a person, you want to get on their level and you want to understand them. And you know what? As bad as it might sound, if you're in an abusive situation and you love that, you think you love that person, you're going to get on their level to try and make the relationship work. That might sound crazy, but it's the facts of the abuse cycle. How can you tell a narcissist is lying? Whenever they are opening their mouth. And we can just see that the new narrative that Amber Heard has brought out with this, now adding sexual abuse to the whole litany of the craziness she talked about before, is, to me, it's horrific. To create stories about abuse is, I think, one of the worst things you can do in the world, because there are so many people that don't get justice when they are in terrible abusive situations. And then because she's in a privileged position, she can alter her and skew her reality so that she paints herself as the worst victim ever. I don't believe a word that comes out of that woman's mouth. And I hope that the jury can see through her manipulations and her psychological twists and turns and her chaos. I'm really hoping for that. But the problem is, not everyone in the world is aware of manipulation and aware of people who will literally go to the lengths of putting bruises on themselves. It's hard to believe. For the common person, it's hard to believe. But unless I lived it myself, I don't think I would necessarily believe it either. How would anyone put bruises through makeup or make marks on themselves and say another person did it? to me, it's probably the most insane thing to do. We know people who are psychotic and kill people. They're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. But I think, to be honest, people who do that to themselves to foster, if you can compare nuts, what level of nuts are we dealing with here? I just think they're more nuts. People who do that to themselves to get at another person, to ruin another person's life. They are more nuts. And make no mistake about it, they are the type of people that definitely can harm someone to the level of murder or extreme harm. Anyone who can do that level of manipulation is a way advanced psychopath. And it's just baffling to see it play out in front of our eyes. Now listen, am I saying that Johnny Depp is a little rose and a little innocent bystander, an innocent victim? No. Johnny Depp has definite a pattern of substance abuse. There's no doubt about that. It's easy to recognize. We all can recognize it. We see it in people in our everyday lives, our workmates, our neighbors. We know what alcoholism and drug addiction looks like. And there's been a lot of evidence about Johnny Depp to say that he may have a problem in that area. And it probably got worse when dealing with a psychopath. And I think, I relate a lot to him and myself because we're around the same age. And when you get older, it's like, I think everything comes to a head, And I know that a lot of my life I was coping and getting by and in bad relationships, didn't know what was happening to me. But when it came to the relationship I had a couple of years ago where I was literally probably not going to make it, if I had have stayed in that relationship, I definitely would not have made it. I wouldn't have made it out alive. I know that one way or another, I would not have made it out of that relationship alive. I know that. And I look at Johnny Depp's situation a lot and kind of relate to him in that he was at a vulnerable point in his life, older. And then it's like your issues that you've been dealing with your whole life kind of come to a head. You can't get any more dysfunctional. It's like they meet a match, usually of someone that's worse and more dysfunctional, and then you're kind of, everything blows up. And that's kind of what happened in my life, and it looks like what happened in Johnny Depp's life. I am really glad he took it to court. I'm really glad, even if he does not win, he has brought to light how the nature and the cycle of abuse can manifest itself. And I think his details that he brought out into the public, I think, as hard as that must be for him and as embarrassing as it might be, he's going to help so many people. And it's reiterating the fact that it's not just women that get into these situations. It's a tough one. And I think, yes, he might have made some mistakes. I might have fought back on occasion, because when you're psychologically battered and someone has been like smacking you around for a while or even verbally abusing you and you care about them and they won't stop, you kind of snap. I mean, what person wouldn't? I don't think I just can, we can tell. We're not dumb. We can tell character, and he is not the character to go out of his way and abuse women. We see those kinds of men, and men who do that have a pattern, and it shows up in every relationship that they have with women, right? So he does not have that pattern, and he's in his 50s. If he was going to be a woman beater, we would have heard about that a long ago. He's had multiple relationships. He's worked with so many women in Hollywood. I mean, there's never been anything like that about him. She is the perpetrator. And yes, he might have fought back on occasion, but she is the abuser in this situation. We can only hope that it comes to fruition and we see some justice here. I'm not too what's the word, hopeful about the court system. I think anytime you can stay away from courts and the law, you're better off. I don't see the court system as always being fair and just. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you get good people and you get good situation, but sometimes I don't see justice playing out correctly in the court system. But we will hope for the best, and just know I can't stand it when I hear people saying that he was an abuser, because anyone with a grain of salt can tell. Anyone that has any common sense, and you look over some of this evidence, it is easy to tell he's a victim of abuse, and hopefully soon will be a survivor.